You're listening to Uranium Spotlight on Tuesday, March 18, 2025. Brought to you by Purepoint Uranium Group, your exploration partner in the most prolific areas of Canada's Athabasca Basin. With a collaborative investment model on district-scale projects and validation from industry leaders Cameco, Orano, and ISO Energy, Purepoint is investing in Canada's uranium future. And now your host, Chris Frostad.
This week on Uranium Spotlight, the U.S. needs to rethink its nuclear fuel cycle. Sprott comments on tariffs, Orano advances in Uzbekistan, and Cameco and Purepoint begin their drill program in Canada. The spot uranium price closed last week at $63.70 a pound, down slightly from $63.95 a pound, with market activity remaining measured. Spot transactions totaled 6 deals for 800,000 pounds of U3O8, bringing the year-to-date volume to 9.4 million pounds across 91 transactions, an 8% increase over the same period in 2024. The long-term market remains quiet, with utilities hesitant to commit to major contracts. While some are engaged in mid-term discussions, formal long-term agreements were limited last week. Many utilities continue monitoring supply chain risks before locking in larger commitments. Smaller 50,000-pound transactions have made up 30% of this year's spot deals, more than doubling last year's share. Traders and financial players accounted for 47% of the volume, reflecting renewed interest in carry trades at lower price levels. Looking ahead, spot price support is expected in the $60 to $65 a pound range, with increased buying likely from producers and investors at these levels. Utilities could also step in selectively, particularly if concerns over geopolitical risk and production shortfalls drive near-term purchasing decisions. While market volumes remain light, forward demand fundamentals suggest a potential shift in buying momentum later this year. The Third Way, a prominent center-left think tank that has long advocated for nuclear energy as a bipartisan issue, has released a new report warning that the U.S. must secure a stable nuclear fuel cycle to safeguard its national security against geopolitical rivals like China and Russia. The report emphasizes that a reliable nuclear fuel supply is essential for U.S. energy independence. It outlines how Russia and China are strategically locking the U.S. out of key markets by bundling fuel supply with reactor sales. This growing dominance not only undermines American economic interests, but also threatens global nuclear safety, non-proliferation efforts, and international security standards. While the U.S. is working to expand its enrichment capacity, progress has been slow, leaving the country playing catch-up. The authors argue that without urgent action from the Department of Energy, the U.S. risks further eroding its competitive position in nuclear energy. The report highlights how China and Russia are advancing their influence in different ways. Russia has aggressively expanded its nuclear footprint by constructing power plants in nations such as Venezuela, Uzbekistan, Egypt, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Turkey. These projects come with long-term fuel supply agreements, further entrenching Russia's role in the global nuclear market. Even after the U.S. banned Russian uranium imports in 2024, Russia continued supplying a significant portion of American fuel through waivers. China, meanwhile, is rapidly expanding its own nuclear sector, with 29 reactors currently under construction domestically. It's also built nuclear plants abroad, such as the one in Pakistan, and is poised to export both its technology and fuel supply expertise worldwide. The U.S. faces a critical shortfall in uranium production. While the U.S. Energy Information Administration recently reported that domestic uranium output tripled in Q4 2024, that figure remains insignificant, barely enough to power 6 reactors for a year. With 93 reactors in operation, the U.S. currently produces only about 300,000 pounds of uranium annually, while each reactor requires roughly 60,000 pounds per year. Making matters worse, the U.S. lacks the in-ground resources to fully support its nuclear fleet. Countries like Canada, Australia, and Kazakhstan do have ample uranium reserves, but each presents challenges. Kazakhstan's supply is already largely committed to Russia and China. Australia remains restricted by uranium mining bans in most of its states. Canada, historically the U.S.'s largest uranium supplier, is now caught in a trade dispute with Washington, threatening this crucial partnership. Without a viable domestic uranium supply, the U.S. must rely on allies. However, by jeopardizing its long-standing trade relationships, it risks undermining its own energy security. If these trends continue, they could directly threaten the Biden administration's energy policies or, if reversed, align with the previous administration's goal of energy dominance through affordable, abundant power. For uranium investors, the key takeaway is clear. Supply constraints, shifting alliances, and policy decisions will continue to drive volatility and opportunity in the sector. Sprott has released a new report analyzing the potential impact of Donald Trump's tariff policies on the uranium market. One key point is that while the proposed tariffs on uranium were initially set to take effect on March 6, their start date has been pushed back to April 2nd. The implications could be significant, given that Canada supplies 27% of the uranium used in the U.S. If trade tensions escalate, Canada could impose retaliatory export taxes on energy, further disrupting supply dynamics. The report also addresses speculation that Trump might lift the U.S. ban on Russian uranium imports, with the expectation that Putin would reciprocate by removing Russia's retaliatory export ban. However, Sprott considers this scenario unlikely. The U.S. prohibition on Russian uranium is already enshrined in law, and reversing it would require congressional support, something that may not be politically feasible. Moreover, if Russian uranium were suddenly allowed back into the U.S. market, it could flood supply channels, undermining domestic producers and enrichers. A notable casualty could be the planned new enrichment facility in Tennessee, which might struggle to launch in an oversupplied market. Sprott also touches on concerns regarding potential policy changes, such as the removal of the Inflation Reduction Act funding and nuclear sector loan programs. While these risks exist, the report deems them unlikely given the current political landscape. Additionally, speculation about reviving the megatons to megawatts program, a Cold War-era initiative that converted Russian warhead material into reactor fuel, is seen to be improbable. Despite these uncertainties, Sprott reiterates its confidence in uranium's long-term fundamentals, suggesting that market conditions may present a buying opportunity rather than a reason to sell. Orano has signed a new agreement with Navoiyuran, Uzbekistan's state-owned uranium miner, to advance a significant new deposit in the country's northeast. The deal brings in a new partner, Japan's ITOCHU Corporation, alongside Orano and Navoiyuran. Under the agreement, Navoiyuran will operate the project while Orano and ITOCHU provide funding and technical support. The deposit is expected to reach sustained production within a decade, targeting annual output of up to 1.5 million pounds of uranium. Xavier St. Martin Tillet, Orano's senior executive VP for mining, emphasized the strategic importance of the project, stating, "This initiative strengthens Orano's production diversification. It builds on 5 years of groundwork in Uzbekistan, where Orano is leveraging its geopolitical and geological and technical expertise to advance development and expand its global footprint." For investors, this signals growing international collaboration in uranium supply with Uzbekistan. Purepoint Uranium is launching its first drill program along the high-priority Grooms Lake Conductive Corridor at the Smart Lake joint venture in Saskatchewan's Athabasca Basin. This is a significant step as it marks the first time these newly refined targets, mapped using last year's electromagnetic survey, will be tested. The program includes 4 drill holes totaling 1,400 meters to follow up on conductors that extend for more than 2 kilometers. The project itself is a joint venture with Cameco, with Purepoint holding a 27% stake. Strategically located, Smart Lake sits just 60 kilometers south of the historic Cluff Lake uranium mine and 18 kilometers west of Purepoint's Hook Lake JV. Previous drilling at Smart Lake identified basement-hosted uranium mineralization, and one historic hole, SAM-13, stopped just short of its intended target. With recent geophysical work indicating these conductors continue at depth, this program is positioned to build on past success and advance Smart Lake's exploration potential significantly. This is all happening at a time when uranium prices remain strong and the supply-demand fundamentals continue to favor new discoveries. With Cameco as a partner, a well-defined geological target, and systematic exploration approach, this program represents another step in Purepoint's efforts to unlock the next major uranium discovery in the Athabasca Basin. And that wraps up your Uranium Spotlight coverage for this week. For more news and events from the world of uranium, please tune in next week to Uranium Spotlight.
You've been listening to Uranium Spotlight, your weekly podcast dedicated to delivering the latest news and events shaping the uranium fuel market and its critical role in the global energy landscape. Brought to you by Purepoint Uranium Group. Purepoint actively operates a portfolio of advanced uranium projects in the world's richest uranium district and has established partnerships with industry leaders. While our passion for this subject is undeniable, it's essential to clarify that the information presented here is not investment advice. Instead, our goal is to offer an unbiased and comprehensive review of recent events that could impact uranium prices. Join us again next Tuesday for Uranium Spotlight.